Hello, everybody. Yes, it is Thursday. It is 9, so it's UK Cowboys time. And Mr. Graham Wilson getting in just under the wire. Luckily, we got a 2-minute intro, so we gave him time to get in. How are we doing, guys?
I can run a 2-minute offense as good as anybody.
But I have seen you try to run for more than 2 minutes, and that did not look good. How are you doing? How is everybody? And how is everybody at home? Make sure to give us your comments.
I think Tuesday was good therapy for us.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just causing some feedback. Sorry.
Ate a healthy dose of humble pie on Tuesday, I think. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot that can be taken away from that. The only thing I will say, if you want to go for a positive about how that game was, is for me, obviously nobody wants to explore a loss like that.
No.
Super Bowl winning teams all have it. Patriots win the Super Bowl. Who did they lose to that year? The New York Jets. Yep. New York Jets had like the second draft pick that year. It happens. But great Super Bowl, great teams, playoff teams all have a bad loss. But what I like about it is we get to see the mettle of the team. So this is their bounce back. Can they get the team, the season back on track? And when a team faces adversity, what do they do with it? Can they get back on? Because all the good teams that are good manage to do it. That's my little takeaway there.
I think also, the fact that there were so many strange games last week, the Bills losing 9-6 to the Jacksonville Jaguars and,
without a touchdown.
Yeah. And Josh Allen intercepting and sacking himself and, all that.
Josh Allen to Josh Allen.
Yeah.
It was just not just in NFL, college as well. It was a weird week for college.
Yeah.
Really strange.
That Bama LSU game was actually quite entertaining for most of the first half in a way, and then
that has to be the worst win for Alabama in Saban's history. That was terrible. That was a terrible game.
Yeah, definitely.
Even Cincinnati's win. You watch that. They should have lost that game. That should have been that was a straight out loss. It was only because they fumbled the ball in the end zone to go out that they lost the game. And you're just like, wow, what a weird week. But the
whole time zone thing seemed to scupper a lot of people.
Yeah. We're still dealing with time zones, but it's all back to normal now. So we're all good. Should we get into the news and updates then, guys? The fun stuff.
Let's go. Yep. That'll be all depressing though.
Rightio then. All right, so straight out of the gate, we'll start with the top. Greg Zerline has the My Sharona, so he's looking like he's out for the week. We'll talk a little bit about that in the news and update bit. So we'll come back to this because I've got some questions to ask you. In the meantime, Lareem Harulahu, he is back, and an old friend of ours, Brett Maher, he's come back as well. Hall of Famer Brett Maher is back in the building. Yeah. Some interesting statistics on that one, which we'll come back to in a minute. Also, straight out of the gate from today's news, Randy Gregory's being moved to IR with a calf strain. He had it yesterday, and I know he tried to work through it, but it turns out today they're shutting him down. We'll talk about that on the defensive side. Some good news. We'll try and, make some light or good of the situations that have been happening. Lamb, ankle is good. Full participant in practice. He's looking red hot, ready to go. Zeke with a knee. He's okay. It's a work in progress, working through the pain. They've asked Zeke about it, and he's like, it's just something I've got to deal with. He was slow to get up last week, but what's interesting is the quarter he went out in, he came back in the same quarter after a few whatever you want to call it, series or plays. In other news, Corey Cumlen and Goodwin as well. They're both out on illness. It's non-COVID related, and they look like they will play on the weekend. Cedric Wilson has a shoulder injury, so still waiting some news on that one. Coop and Tyron Smith, vet days they've been on. Rest and recuperation. I don't think, though, Smith is going to play. We'll get to that on the offensive side of the ball. And big one, Michael Gallup is back. He's back in the building and he's practicing. And then just to finish off before we go back to the kicking side on the news and updates, Anger and McQuaid have both been sent home. Safety purposes, I think it's just to protect them. Because obviously special teams with Greg Zuerlein going out with the old Rona. I think they're just trying to protect them. Just lastly, in other news, UK Cowboys news, the Super Bowl party is happening in Glasgow. One of these two fine gentlemen here are going to make a phone call and place the booking some point next week. We'll talk about that off here. And also, we'd like to thank everybody because the UK Cowboys podcast has gone up in the ranks. We're now in the top 5 in Cowboys podcasts. So thank you, everybody. And thank you to all the guys in the team.
That was quite something yesterday on my podcast. Picker up. I accidentally deleted the Cowboys break from my list of downloadable feeds, and I went back to get it, and sure enough, there we were listed number 5. We're above the Players Lounge, some of the other sites as well. Now I don't know how they've selected it, but I'll take it that we're number 5 in the list.
It's based on popularity going through it, but it's 5th. We're above Locked On, which is absolutely insane. There we go. But thank you very, very much, everybody, for always joining us and sending your comments in that are flying in. Thank you very much. But yeah, the only other thing I wanted to note was there are injuries on the other side. Most importantly, the big ones, Calvin Ridley isn't playing, mental health reasons. And the other one, Deontay Fowler, doesn't look like he'll be playing. He's questionable. He's set to return from IR. Still in the air, really, what's going to happen there. I don't think he's playing. But let's get back to the Zuerlein situation. So my question for you guys is, the Cowboys last week, 4th down, they were 0 for 3 on 4th down conversion. It was a bad week. You could say some of the parts were due to play calling. Some of the parts was due to Dak being out of sync out of time with his passing. You know, that pass on 4th down to Cedric Wilson landing at his ankles. That's no good. 4th down conversion, an option, yeah. But in terms of kicking, Zuerlein or non-Zuerlein, like, what faith have you guys got on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being good, 1 being bad, in the Cowboys kicking game, field goal, especially? It seems to be not so much the mid-range, the bread and butter range, you know, when we're talking the 30 to 49 yard. It seems to be less. we seem to have trouble. But where's your scale and confidence in the kicking game?
For me, it's maybe 6 or 7, and that's a generous 7. It's not 8, 9, or 10 because, like I think Brian broke a bit of kicking news, and I wasn't even that concerned. You know, it's not like he's a stick on to nail all his points. So I wasn't even that concerned that he had problems. It just seems to be across the league. I don't know if it's just Cowboys related. I think it seems to be across the league, and I don't think there's no, like, if the Pro Bowl voting started tomorrow, I don't know who my kicker would be. I don't think there's anybody that's an absolute stick on. I think last I looked, the Raiders kicker, Daniel Carson, was number 1 in the rankings. maybe kicking in a dome helps. I don't know, but I'm not really too concerned because I think we could go and get somebody off the street. I mean, I brought up that Dan Bailey's a free agent, but we seem to have brought in Maher, so yay.
Well, we've actually Maher's not been signed.
No, that's correct.
Leram's been signed to the practice squad. They're still holding out hope that
there is a chance.
Zerline can, because he's vaccinated. He only has to do the 2 tests in 24 hours. So there is still a chance that you could activate him again on Saturday. If they don't, then it's just a straight call up from the practice squad. It's not even having to make space by cutting somebody, albeit, we've now got Randy Gregory going to IR, so that's going to create another roster spot. Now, yes, Leram's never kicked in the NFL, but he has been kicking for a good number of years in the CFL as well.
Yeah.
CFL only has one indoor stadium, so he is an outdoor kicker, and he's made 239 field goals in the CFL. There's no difference in the measurement of the goalposts or anything. It's exactly the same. So it suggests that he can make it. There's video of him kicking 70 yards into the wind and 55 yards facing the wind. So, and he was 12 of 12 in the kicks in the tryout yesterday. So,
although in the CFL they do put their posts in the wrong place.
Yes, they do.
I mean, you only have to go back to week 1 of the regular season. If Zerline makes those 2 kicks, we beat the Bucks.
True. Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's in hindsight of knowing how the rest of the game goes, and play calls can change. And like if they could have gone for touchdowns rather than field goals, blah 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 blah. But simple mathematics, you nail one of those field goals and you win the game. That's just the difference between missing the kick and scoring it. It's frustrating to watch kickers miss field goals because they literally only have one job to do, and then they roll onto the field and don't do it. It's like, well, you're getting. I get that. I get that it's a pressure situation. It's a pressure thing. They're brought in to do one thing, and if they don't do it, they get all the hassle that goes with it. But in terms of what they're actually asked to do during the game, they have to come in and do those things properly. I mean, they're just like backups. If backups don't come in and do their job properly on the occasion that they're asked to do it, the team will go and get another backup. They'll go and find somebody that can make the 2 receptions out of 2 targets and so on, and actually make a difference. So,
I mean, what's ironic is Greg Zerline on the year, he ranks 21st among kickers in field goal accuracy, 78. But in terms of active kickers in the NFL, he ranks like right at the very top, in like the top 3 in terms of game-winning field goals. And what's ironic is when we were talking earlier about the bread and butter kicks, that 30 to 50 yard field goals, he is not bad. He's fairly accurate. The trouble seems to be the shorter field goals. And if you ever watch Zerline with his kicking, the balls all end up in the same place. It's all left, center. Every time seems to be the same place. I don't know if it's the injury because, he didn't have an off season, so he's had less time to kick. Injuries plus there's a back injury. I'm not sure. Plus add in as well. He's kicking with, although he should be used to him from his previous team, he's kicking with a different long snapper. The little things, I think, that just a multitude of things that have added up, a plethora of issues.
Yeah. And I think as well, in recent weeks, the misses that he's had, they've all been, as you say, wide left. And then he's corrected it. So it's always been the first kick that he's missed. And then he's corrected it, and he's been perfect for the remainder of the game. So, the Tampa Bay game aside, he hasn't missed more than one kick in a game. So, I think, to be honest, the bigger concern this week in terms of what a kicker needs to do is when we're kicking off this week, we've got Cordarrelle Patterson,
which is the next point.
So we need the kicks to be going out the back of the end zone, I think, rather than risking. This is a guy that, okay, he's not quite Devin Hester or Deion Sanders at returning kicks, but he's still got the capability of taking it to the house. So, you don't want to be putting the ball in his hands at all.
I mean, we'll get to the defensive side as well. But yes, I mean, we can get into the offensive side. I've got some questions for you on that. So should we kick straight into the offensive side and get things rolling?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's rock and roll. Righty. So the first thing I want to talk about, bounce back. So we spoke about, that this team needs to bounce back from a bad loss. The good thing is this is a good game to start against the Falcons. Okay, they're in playoff contention. And we were saying last week with Denver that this was a team they could beat. Obviously, you've got to be careful with your words, to say the least. Let's start with the Cowboys O Line. Against Denver, it was bad. They need to bounce back. And we can all say Terrence Steele at left tackle, and we'll talk about the left tackle now. Right tackle was just as bad. Center was bad. Connor Williams was having trouble. That entire O-line was getting shredded last week. And I know people are picking on Terrence Steele because that was bad. And here's my question for you on left tackle. Do you continue to go there? Do you switch Collins and Steele around? Or do we go with Nseki, who is invariably played left tackle in the NFL and has done it for a while?
I think we briefly touched on this on Tuesday. I think you've got to now that you've moved Steele across to the left hand side. I think you've got to stick with that. It takes, as we've always talked about, it's like wiping your backside with the wrong hand.
The wrong hand, yeah.
We started the process. It probably takes a couple of weeks to truly get that sense of, being
a feel for it.
Yeah, feel for it. So I think you've got to stick with that. And we've got no idea, if La'el Collins had played a fantastic game last week, then yes, you might consider flipping them across. But La'el wasn't. His conditioning was really bad. You saw him after the first series, which lasted 4 plays. He was already on the sideline, hooked up to the oxygen mask as well. So his conditioning was bad. And as I said, the conditioning, when your conditioning's bad, you start making mistakes in your technique. And that's what led to him getting penalized so many times last week. And then to be honest, I mean, if you were, I would probably give Steele, he gave up a couple of sacks in the game and, Dak got pressure, but generally he actually did quite a good job compared to a lot of the guys along the line there. There was, he wasn't by far the weak link of the offensive line last week. So
yeah,
give him another shot at left tackle, and you've got Nseki ready on the sidelines if need be, but you've got to give him. You're paying him to be the swing tackle, and I think that should be your first option. So,
and talking about keeping consistency with the line, and a good thing is, I don't know what you take of this. Like the Falcons D line doesn't scare me. They're bottom in sacks. They have 11 sacks on the year, which is last. And pressures, I have this written down somewhere. I wrote it down. I think they're third from bottom. They're third worst in pressures. And in fact, Grady Jarrett, the defensive tackle, he has 21 pressures on the year. So he makes up 1/5 of the entire team's pressures.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll agree with what with what Lauren said. I think we should keep everybody in place, because, like you say, when you start moving guys around, they lose rhythm and all that kind of stuff. And I think we've basically been told that Collins will play right tackle. He's taken over, and we'll see Tyron Smith soon enough. So, yeah, I would like Lauren said, I would keep Steele at left tackle as well. I mean, the stats are good for this game, but I made light of the Broncos pass rush, and
well, ironically, in terms of them getting pressures and sacks, they weren't too bad, yeah. But what was good with the Broncos defense is they I think they ranked 3rd in points allowed, so they were quite good in that sense. But that is just a whole kettle of fish. That was just a game where they couldn't get anything going. But my next question for you is Tyler Biadasz. Now, a lot of people are talking about Connor Williams, Connor McGovern, that talk, Tyron Smith for the injury history, but not many people are talking about Tyler Biadasz, because I've gone back and looked that in amongst those 5 or 6, if you like now, you could even go 7, starting offensive lineman, Tyler Biadasz ranks last in pass coverage. It just allows a lot of pressures and hits. Is this something that they need to look into, or are we giving him benefit of the doubt to develop into the role?
Well, I mean, again, if you think about it, he only played about 3 or 4 games last year, and then
correct.
This is what week 10, so you're still talking that it's effectively his
sample
rookie season.
Size.
His sample size hasn't been great. Yes, he's obviously he's a 10-game starter this season. Yeah. What I also think, obviously, he had the injury coming out of college, which has obviously taken a bit of time to, it's probably hindering his strength and conditioning. He didn't have a strength and conditioning when he got drafted. There wasn't the same sort of strength and conditioning that they had this year. So he's probably still needing to get a few pounds in the bags of sand in the old pants, sort of thing, to make him a bit stronger. That will maybe come, and I think you give him the benefit of the doubt until next year. Obviously, we've got to live with it now. The Falcons like to move their linemen around, and I can almost bet you'll see that Grady Jarrett will be going up against him and Connor Williams, because 6'0", 305 pounds. That's going to be a big. That's going to be a big hit. That's where they're going to try and attack our offensive line, I think, is put Jarrett there. And they generally play a 3-4. So again, what they'll be looking to do is have the linemen tie up our offensive line and let the linebackers flow to the ball and put pressure on Dak. So yeah, I think going back to the question, I think we've got to stick with that. Biadasz is probably going to be the first choice center for the rest of the season.
Yeah, again, I'll agree. On basically looking at it from another angle, I don't see a challenger. I think if they were going to go with McGovern or an alternative, I think they would have done it by now. Because, like you're saying, Mike, it's not a couple of bad games we're talking about. We're talking about actual stats, and if Biadasz is letting more through than he should, they'll know that. Yet they haven't switched it. They've stuck with it. So I think the plan is to just let him roll and let him try grow into the role. I mean, he's been the centre all season, and I don't think we should dissect. I don't think we should dissect it too much. I think we should take last Sunday for what it was. It was a blip game. It was everybody was bad. Nobody pass marks. So I think we should just throw last Sunday in the bin and move on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Tyler Biadasz's struggles this year, for me personally, all right, you can say about, the player, but for me, I think this is a failure on the coaching staff, because last year when the season was in turmoil and we were struggling, we kept playing. Oh my God, how have I forgotten his name? Help me out.
Joe
Looney. Joe Looney. Sorry, I do apologize. How you can forget Joe Looney is. I seen him today on Facebook, and I was just like, oh, there he is. Anyway, yeah, when last year and you knew that they weren't going to keep Joe, for me, that would have been it. I'd be like, right, let's see what he's got. Our season is struggling as it is. Let's get Biadasz on. Let's see what we've got, and that's what they should have done. But for some reason, they didn't want to go down that road and kept cracking on with it. The other thing I wanted to look at is the Zeke's knee situation. It seems to be something that's an ongoing thing all season. Is this perhaps, do you think, is this either him taking a lot of lumps and bumps, or do you think that in the off-season we're talking about him losing weight, which wasn't a bad thing, but when you lose weight, obviously the impact of these tackles can affect you more. Is that something that's going on here, or do you just think it's a bad knock and he's just trying to deal and manage this?
It's concerning because they've split carries. And for me, certainly they've given Tony Pollard the bigger role, and the whole point of reducing Zeke's role was to reduce injury, and he's come down with an injury. But like you're saying, if he's dropped weight, then it makes him more susceptible. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and I think we've still got a long way to go. If Tony Pollard ends up with more carries and we win, you've obviously got no concern at all. I think Pollard is he's a viable backup. I wouldn't like to see him as a starter, but if they can make the carries split again, put Pollard where he's most dangerous, split him out wide and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be too concerned, because if you can get rid of the knee issue now, as soon as you hit December when the bad weather starts and we need to go up to the northeast an awful lot, then you can bring Zeke back in at full rate. So
yeah, and he's already on the heat pads.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So if Pollard sees more carries and touches for the rest of November, not too concerned so long as we can get Zeke back for December, basically.
Yeah. And to answer Joe's question, I think it was a collection of things, but mostly the O line playing so bad.
Yeah.
To answer that question, I think some of it was dark, some of it was injury, but most of it was that he was trying to run around to save himself.
And to answer his other comment that you put up there about Joe Looney, Joe Looney actually was on Cowboys Crosstalk a couple of weeks ago, and he actually said that he literally was doing one drill in the middle of Giants training camp. It had nothing to do with doing the wind sprints or anything like that, but he literally said, that's it. So if we'd signed Joe Looney again, I mean, signed him to a multi-year contract, which probably wouldn't have done anyway, because he was he's in his 10th year when he retired. But I mean, you would have had to eat anything that you'd guaranteed him. So, we probably were well out of it. But I mean, obviously Joe's enjoying now. He's coaching his kids at flag football. He
was out playing golf the other day.
Yeah. And I'd seen that. I think I saw a picture of him with, obviously Sean Lee's been in town because he's now working with the pro scouting department. That's right. As well.
That was something I was going to put in the notes. I forgot to mention it.
So they've obviously, there's been a meet-up between them as well. So
yeah. But I mean, in terms of the O-line, I think this is a good game to bounce back from, purely on the basis because the Falcons D-line does it. The linebackers aren't too bad. The corners are good as well. AJ Terrell, I think he's not a bad corner. Gets a lot of stick, but that's because he's the guy facing the number one wide receiver. Like, he's going to be facing CD Lamb this week. So, that's where he kind of gets a lot of the stick from. But talking wide receivers, let's talk Gallup coming back. Is he starting? do you think, or do you want to break him in gently? Because he could have started last week. Yeah. So is that the week of conditioning? They just literally hit the ground running, do you think?
Yeah, for me, he starts. Simply because we didn't see much of Cooper and Lamb last week, and I'll be honest, it scared me a little bit because until Malik Turner came into the game in junk time, we didn't see much else. Now, whether that's Dak not being able to get the ball out quick enough or not seeing the windows, I don't particularly know. But, I mean, when you combine Lamb and Cooper for 4 catches in total, that's not good. So if you can add another weapon in Michael Gallup, and from my understanding, they haven't rushed him back. Like you're saying, he could have played last week. So they haven't rushed him back. So you would assume he's with a full week of practice, he's fit. He's fit to play. So if he can go back on the outside and move Lamb into the slot, move him around a little bit, that creates more mismatches, and that can only be good.
Yeah,
and
go for it.
Cedric Wilson's also dealing with a shoulder issue this week as well. So,
correct.
that means we don't have to force him to play. Obviously we saw Malik Turner come in as well. The fact that we've got this sort of embarrassment of riches on the wide receivers, it's meaning that we're not having to force people to play, and we can spell them if they need to recover. So it's good to have Gallup back, and I think in terms of what he can do down the sideline as a deep passing threat, Wilson's probably one of these guys. Most of his catches seem to be across the middle and finding that seam, much like the tight ends, finding the seam where we, when you take away Gallup and Cooper, take away CD Lamb and Cooper, you don't have another outside threat as such. This probably allows, you'll probably see a lot more of CD Lamb back in the slot. Where he's probably the most dangerous. Although obviously we saw Gallup during training camp doing a lot of stuff at the slot. So they should all be interchangeable parts.
I'm not a fan of Gallup from the slot though.
No.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen enough of it. That's the problem. We need to actually have some evidence-based, proof of what he can do in the slot. And
is that, and also Dak and Gallup connecting on outside, on the fringes and outside numbers. They just got a very good connection then, pair. Yeah. They always seem to be able to find each other quite well out there.
Yeah, and especially when the game's on the line.
If you put Lamb back inside, it creates more threat on the inside now that you don't have Blake Jarwin. So he can be more versatile on the inside, and like you're saying, Gallup has a connection on the outside.
Yeah, and you think as well, what you want to do with Lamb is you're trying to give him the ball as quickly as possible, because he's a guy that once he's got the ball in the hands, it's the yak. That's where he's scary. Yeah, he could literally, we've seen it, he will break it off, and the best place to do that from is from the slot. Because the zones are smaller and tighter and quicker, and you can get it through on a quick slant, and the guy's gone. So that's why I like him there. And
it keeps our leading receiver away from AJ Terrell as well, because you'd imagine they'd leave Terrell on the outside.
You would imagine so, that's what they're going to do. So that'll be up against with Coop, which is quite interesting. But here's the most interesting stat that works in our favor, and you know me. So the Falcons defense on third down have allowed offenses 48% of the time to convert. That's second worst in the NFL. The Cowboys, conversely, on third down on offense, convert on 46%. That is fourth in the NFL. So I think with Gallup coming back, you're talking about putting Lamb back in the slot. Plus, don't forget, we're talking Pollard coming into that equation as well. I think third down is going to be where this game's went, because the Falcons defense has a way of just not being able, although Cowboys last week did the same thing. Different story. But on in terms of their defense, they would literally all season they've struggled on third down. So I think this is a great game for Gallup to come back and Lamb, as you say, to go back to the slot, because then that just increases our chances on third down if it does tend to go wrong. But that's my take. Any other particular for you guys? Any other particular mismatches on the offense that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, the only other thing, again, the Falcons aren't very good against the run, so this should, in theory, be a good game for Zeke and Pollard as well. So the old 2021 combination. Yeah.
The 2021, we've been there. I'm telling you, we will get it to catch on. Should we bounce onto the defense?
Yeah, let's go.
Yep.
Let's rock and roll. All right. First thing I put in big, bold letters is defense. Falcons head coach, current Cowboys defensive coach, Dan Quinn. Does that help?
It does a little bit in that, the tendencies of the players that you're going to be facing, guys like Matty Ice, but at the same time, Atlanta seem to have, obviously with a change of coaching staff, a lot of the players that were out of contract last season have been shown the door. Julio Jones is now going to Tennessee. Calvin Ridley's gone. You still got Russell. You still got Gage. You've now brought in Pitts. You've now got brought in Pitts. Yeah. So this is probably a completely different team that realistically you're looking at. Yes, there's players, as I say, there's players that he will be able to focus on and say, the weakness of him is, and if we put such and such on this, we should be able to create a mismatch there. Conversely, how we now deal with the fact that we've lost Randy Gregory, he's now officially, just as I look at Cowboys.com at the moment, he's officially gone onto the IR now.
Yeah.
So that's at least 3 weeks he's out. What do we do? Do we consider going back and putting Parsons at DE? Continue, or do we hope that Dorrance Armstrong steps up? You got Terrell Basham, Chancey Golston.
Because Chancey Golston last week had maybe the worst game of his. I know it's only like the 10th game or 9th game, 8th game, and in his career, but that game was horrific for Chancey Golston. I mean, he had a stinker, which is a lot to say about that whole defense last week, Mike. But there's a question for you, right? Let's start here. That the Atlanta offense, they finally figured out how to use Kyle Pitts. It took Smith a while to figure it out, but he's got there. He's figured him out, and he's gone, this is what I'll do. So in the last few weeks, he's really turned it on. So the very first question I got for you is, where do you go with Pitts? Do you put the Cowboys tight end killer, Curse, over Pitts? Because he's been great against tight ends defending them. I did have a statistic from last week, but obviously it's out of date now on Curse against tight ends. It honestly is phenomenal. So do you go with that, right? Or do you go with Parsons because of the size and the speed? Because obviously Parsons is going to allow more passes. He's going to allow the receptions to get there where Curse is going to break them up. But Parsons has got the size and the speed. So first place you go to is where you go in on defending Pitts. Are you going Curse or Parsons?
For me, it's going Curse
on
man and letting Parsons do his thing, because I think to assign Parsons to Kyle Pitts, it limits his production in the game. Whereas if you've got somebody that can compete for the ball in the air, at least you can shut down the pass before it leaves Ryan's hand.
Okay.
You can affect the run game if you leave Parsons open. I would keep him more versatile, and I would let him do his thing, because hopefully the safety play will come back, and there'll be a lot more flash plays from the safeties. They've kind of tailed off a little bit. So if we can get a nice game from Kerse, I would say that. But like you're saying, Pitts is a definitely a force now, and I think it's like I've got a stat of my own. The Falcons offense has scored 25 points in 4 of the last 5 games. So Matt Ryan is not having the stinking season that fantasy football says that he is.
No.
They are effective, and they're not having. It's not a dead end season they're involved in. So I think you've got to worry about Matt Ryan as well, because if you lose Gregory and you assign Parsons to effectively coverage, where does your pass rush come from? You know, that's got. I mean, obviously we're guys getting it done, but I would rather have an assigned bit of talent that I know is going to get me pressure on the ball in the quarterback's hands, or the running back's hands at least. But if you send Parsons on coverage, I'm not sure who takes over in that role.
Yeah. I mean, because it is a pickle. Go on, Lord. Hit us with it.
No, I would keep Parsons as a pure linebacker, because obviously you want his versatility, where he can obviously drop into zone coverage or come up and create a little bit of pressure, and you want them actually coming to the line and saying he's lined up there, right? Okay, that's who you want them focusing on when they're lining up. You want Kerse over the tight end. I think what concerns me is who you have covering Cordarrelle Patterson as well, because
that was going to be the next step.
Yeah. So Cordarrelle Patterson really is he's a converted wide receiver. He's playing running back this year, and he's leading the team in rushing yards with, I think it's 284 yards. So it shows how little there is that they're using the run game. But again, a lot of that's probably to do with the start of the season. They were having to play a lot of games where they were trying to catch up. So, that's where they went to the passing game. But Cordarrelle Patterson his game seems to have taken a real sort of step forward this year. So
they seem to have figured out how to use him.
Yeah, and as you say, I mean, the start of the season, Arthur Smith seemed to be having difficulty getting his offense to work, but the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, in fact, probably since they were in London playing the Jets, the Jets seems to be a good remedy for most teams who have got concerns about the way their team's going. That seems to be the turning point, that they seem to have picked it up from there. Learned how to use Pitts. They've got Cordarrelle Patterson. They've still got Gage, who can be dangerous.
Russell Gage as well. Can't forget him.
Yep. So all of these guys, I think almost, as I say, you almost need to have a spy on Cordarrelle Patterson that's a cornerback rather than a safety, because you need somebody who can match him for his agility. And safeties tend to be obviously the hard-hitting, open field tacklers.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily the best in coverage, and this is probably a concern there. So, yeah, going back, I'd say you have Kerse covering. Probably have something like the big nickel package, but
which is pretty much what they play all the time.
Yeah. But in this occasion, maybe have your third safety being a converted cornerback.
And to cover it, because it has to. I think going back to what I was saying about Curse and Parsons is, if that's where you're going, which I agree, you put Curse on Pitts, and that's going to be where you go. Parsons at the linebacker position, because does he have the speed? Because if you notice, it's a lot of mismatch and a lot of movement with the Atlanta offense. So Pitts will be in line and they'll move him out almost like into the slot, or they'll have Patterson from the backfield and then play him out wide to try and create these offset mismatches. And that's really why Patterson's getting these, because he's getting these weird defensive mismatches against him. So if you're going to put Curse on Pitts, which I agree, I think that's the way to do it. Parsons is the next problem. Is until tonight I had it figured out. Randy Gregory goes out and he's gone to IR, as you say. So does he play the linebacker position and you use him in that flex sort of position, or does he now move to the defensive end position because you need to get some sort of pass rush, because you need to put pressure on Matt Ryan, because when you put the pressure on him, old Matty Ice does tend to melt a little.
Yeah,
I like him. I like him being the fifth rusher on occasion, with an eye for keeping an eye on Patterson. I think when you put him at defensive end, you put his hand in the dirt, you know he's rushing and he's
coming from.
He's a full goal and you know where he is. He's got a tackle on him. The tackle can engage straight away. Whereas if you've got him rushing from deep with the line already engaged in a block, that's where the holes come from, and that's where you can get to the running back easily as well. So yeah, I would stick with him at linebacker and just hope that somebody like Goldson can come in and do the job.
Okay, I can see where you're going. Because the next issue we've got is, because this Cowboys defense, it is a defense built to defend the pass, not so much the run, but they've done all right. Parsons doing some of the work. Oso's having an absolute stormer. Justin Hamilton, we spoke about last week, who had maybe the best game of his career last week, went and turned it around to the worst game he ever had. That guy was just getting pushed backwards. It was bad. But here's what I've...
Mike, you may or may not have this stat. What was the majority of Parsons' lineups last week? Was he mostly lined up at linebacker?
I'll get his snap count for you now.
Just because it was a particularly good afternoon for Parsons, I'm thinking, do they go with more of the same because they've found a nook for him, that they've found something else?
The thing is don't forget Parsons last week. I'm not taking anything away from Parsons. He doubled his sack rate. He is on track to beat 2005 DeMarcus Ware as a rookie in total sacks. DeMarcus Ware had 8 in his rookie season, and Parsons on 5, and we've still got like half a season to go. Yeah. But he did miss a lot of tackles last week. His missed tackle rate was through the roof. So although it was a good game, he still had a bad game in that sense. So snap count.
Just while Mike's looking that up, do you put any weight in 3 of the 4 Falcons wins being on the road? And 2 being in the last 3 weeks?
The other thing is, like, people are saying, oh my God, the Falcons beat the Saints last week, but look at what the Saints have got. They were a beaten up team.
Yeah. They've got a defense, a running game, and not much else.
Yeah,
man.
When they're struggling with Trevor Siemian,
a journeyman quarterback. This is his 4th team in 4 years or something like that.
Parsons alignment. Mostly as in the box. He played 52 snaps as a linebacker, 12 at the defensive line position, and then they moved him out on 15 times on coverage snaps.
I would go with that. I would stick with that
on that balance.
Yeah.
The more that he spends as a defensive end, the more likely he'll need to be spelled at any point, because it takes a lot out of your body to be taking on 300-pound offensive linemen all the time. Even if you're swimming by them straight off the line, just the sort of physical presence, actually having to match up against them and put a move on them. All it takes is them getting a good lick on you, and that's it. You're winded, or you're increased. The amount of energy you use up on that particular play probably means that you need to come out for a spell. So linebacker, I think he's able to diagnose things better. I mean, obviously, if we saw the efforts he's done in the last couple of weeks of diagnosing things and knowing where to be. He had back-to-back three plus tackle for loss weekends where he was obviously in the right place at the right time. If he's playing that linebacker position, then that's getting him able to diagnose the play. Where if he's got his hand on the ground, it's a whole different viewpoint, and it's difficult to react to. If the ball's coming towards you or what have you. I think one of the things last week, and again we sort of discussed it, the Broncos caught us a lot of the time whenever we had tight end, we had tackle and end stunts going on. That's when it seemed to be that Denver was calling outside run plays, and that was catching us unawares because we didn't have anybody who could set the edge last week.
Setting the edge was a huge issue last week, yeah.
And that's why we need to have Tank Lawrence back, because I mean he as we say, his pass rushing skills have probably slipped a little bit, but he's always very strong against the run
defense,
setting that edge. So we need to hurry up, start the clock on him.
And I do enjoy the thought of Parsons and Tank together on that side. I mean, that's just disrupt City once you put that together. But it seems to be that the Cowboys are cursed to never have Randy Gregory and Tank Lawrence on the field at the same time. It seems to be that way, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But talking of crazy things, I want to ask you about this, and then I'll move on to the next point why I asked this. Trayvon Diggs didn't play very well at all last week. Week before was a bit questionable. There's talk of him playing through some soreness and some injuries. But are you guys at all worried about Trayvon Diggs at this stage? Because he's given up a lot of DPI calls. He's getting beaten, and there's interceptions on coming.
I think it's timely that we've got Nishon Wright and Bossman Fat back as well.
Calvin Joseph, he is back, by the way. Calvin Joseph.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're second and third round picks. So basically, anybody taken inside the top 100, you expect to start. So hopefully they can come in and contribute, because you've still got Anthony Brown. You've still got. I think we've still got Jordan Lewis. Is he still active?
Is what? Sorry,
Jordan Lewis is still active, isn't he?
Yeah.
So they've plenty of options.
He actually had interception last week that was cancelled out by one of Diggs's holding penalties. The thing is, I mean, yes, come the end of the season, you can sit down with Diggs and say, right, we want you to work on this, and this in the off season and come back stronger. I think, we almost need Diggs to carry on being the aggressive player that he is, and understand that you are going to give up plays with him. even the one of the touchdown receptions last week, Diggs was in a good spot. He just got knocked at the last second, and
that was a push off as well. I think
that was I think it was more of a push off. It should have been offensive pass interference.
Yeah,
but certainly Diggs was in the right position there. You could say that. When I've gone back and looked at that New England game as well, the long pass that was given up to Bourne, that was literally, he was a few inches back. It wasn't as bad as, yes, he bet on the double move, which a lot of teams are going to be picking up on, because that's where he's aggressive, and also the downfield crossing patterns, he seems to have a bit of difficulty catching up or diagnosing that. That's
double
what
moves.
The teams are, so that's what the teams are. That's what the teams are going to be focusing on against him. And you hope he learns on the move, and in the middle of the season. But you can't be asking him to watch this, and this, and then other facets of his game fall away.
Because it seems to be like a weird thing. Like you say, the double moves beat him, but a lot of it is the over aggressiveness that he loves playing press man. So obviously when you're up that close, the double moves are going to kill you too. But it just seems to be that a guy who's got 7 interceptions on the year at this point in the season, he's still on pace to break the NFL record in interceptions. I know the on pace thing, whatever, but teams are still like, you would think, if you think of some of the great cornerbacks that have gone halfway through the season and had a good number of interceptions, teams just stop throwing the ball at them. But with Diggs, teams aren't. They're going, I'll take my chance. It seems to be that they're not worried about the interception rate at all. That they're just like, keep throwing the ball over there.
Long may it continue.
Yeah, I know. Because eventually it will come. But to my next point, the issue that the Falcons have on offense is if they get turned over. If Matt Ryan is smart with the football and doesn't turn the ball over, they win a lot of their games. Matt Ryan, over the last season, when he throws, because he's hot and cold, literally, that if he throws one interception in a game, their record stands at 10-17, that they lose 17 of the last 27 games. When he throws 2 interceptions in a game, they're 2-6. So they are a team that, when Matt Ryan doesn't take care of the football, they're not a team that can recover from that.
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking the question with Diggs.
Yeah, and I think a lot probably in those games as well. That's, you'd need to go back and correlate it, but where Matt Ryan's called on to pass the ball an awful lot is where the interceptions will come from. If you think last year in the watermelon game, Matt was throwing the ball a hell of a lot, because it was probably the one game that
he threw for 4 touchdowns.
Our run defense actually held up pretty well last season in that game. And then it was forcing him to throw the ball. He gave up a couple of interceptions. I think he was picked off a couple of times as well in that game, and that's obviously that allowed us to come back into this game.
Yeah. I think for the longest time we've been screaming out for more turnovers and more interceptions. If a player's got 7 interceptions on the season to date, I'm not really going to question how he does it. I'm just enjoying that he does. And like Lawrence says, if he gives up a couple of big plays, fine. The pick sixes and the turnovers are going to be far more effective than making the tackle after 15 yards. You could make a stop at 15 yards all the way down the field. They're still going to score. Whereas if you affect the ball and turn the ball over, that effectively negates the drive. So give up a couple of big plays if you like, so long as as long as they don't get to the red zone, I'm quite happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of them things where it seems to be the last couple of games, Diggs has just seemed to be cooling off. Teams like those 7 interceptions and 2 pick sixes. I'm bothered teams that they just seem to be targeting. And I know there's another record that Diggs is like going to end up being first amongst cornerbacks in DPI calls, penalties. It's just it's a very odd one that there's. I think that they're just keying on is over aggressiveness, and that there's that press man that he just loves to play, and teams are keying in on it. But there is, like you say, the chance that he's going to take it back the other way. And as I say, the Falcons team are not a team that recover from turnovers well. So I think if this is a game for Diggs, who some people are saying are cooling, for him to get hot again, I think this is the game to do it where he could, and if he does, because the Cowboys defense as well, when you look at it on a whole, is that the Cowboys defense are a team, they're a defensive team that need turnovers. That they are good against the pass, or they're a team built to defend the pass. And they've done okay against the run up till now, but they're a team really that need the turnovers. So it's a double-edged sword in that sense. But here we go, and everyone at home, give us your scores. I'm going to ask Lorne and Graham the same question. So give us your final score at home, what you think it's going to be. I'm going to go 30-17 to the Cowboys. What are you going for then, Lorne? Give me your score, your final score.
I'm going to go 28-13 Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the fact that we've lost a few pieces this week so far. I think it is going to be a close game. It's not going to turn into a shootout like last season.
Yeah.
Please God, it's not going to turn into a shootout last season.
No. I think they learned their lesson on that one from last year.
I think defensively, okay, Dan Quinn's made a thing this week where he's been nice to the Arthur Blank and everything like that.
Yeah.
He's saying obviously he's got a hell of a lot he's got to borrow a Des quote. He's got to fix this shit. There's a lot he's got to do this week. But there will be a matter of pride for the defense to step up and have Dan Quinn's back, and make this as a sort of marquee game, even if it's not being spoken explicitly. Dan Quinn will want to have wrinkles to sort of say, well, look, you've passed up on me. So there will be a sense of pride, and I think obviously the butt kicking that we had last week from the Denver Broncos should obviously have reset a lot of the whole
minds,
and should make them hungry for the wins again.
Yeah, like I said at the start of the show, them losing, I don't think was obviously don't misconstrued what I'm saying, that I wanted them to lose, but I think losing, especially when you're on a hot streak like that, puts everything back in perspective. And as like we are analyzing the game and looking in, when you're looking at a team that lost that way, right? Are you a Super Bowl contending deep playoff team? Because if you are, this is the sort of game you will bounce back from, and that will prove everything that we need to know. But Graham, final score.
I'm going to go a bit tight on this one. I'm going to go 24-21 Cowboys.
Okay, I am okay.
I think the Falcons' offense has cause for concern, but I think we got punched in the mouth at home last week, and I don't see it happening again. I think the scoreline will be tight, but I think the Falcons will be due some junk time. So going middle of the fourth, I would say we have maybe a 10-point lead, and the Falcons get one back. I know I'm going a bit in depth, but I think they're a force to be reckoned with. I wouldn't sleep on the Falcons, but so long as you can get at their defense and get Tony Pollard, if not Zeke Elliott, moving, I think we should be okay.
Yeah, and the Cowboys, just so you know, they are touted at 9.5 point favorites on that one. So,
don't tell anybody on the team.
No, don't do that.
Yeah.
I will drop in another. Keep that secret. I will drop in another nugget. The Cowboys haven't lost.
Chair. Sorry.
The Cowboys haven't lost 2 consecutive home games since 2017.
I like that. There we go.
Yep.
And 2017 is many, many years ago, so we've had a big enough sample size now, so that's good enough for me. Should we move to the fantasy section and then wrap things up, guys?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's smash it out the park. All right then, guys, just for a bit of fun, and if you want to play along at home, it's very, very simple. We play a little fantasy section at the end of the pregame show. What I will do is I give you from NFL.com's point system. I round the points off, and you just tell me if it's going to be more or less. So boy, or oh boy for less. So we'll start you off, guys. Dak, 21 fantasy points. Is that boy, or oh boy?
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, boy, oh boy.
Bounce back game. Statement game.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And also, I think the O-line's going to play better. And bear in mind, Dak hadn't played for 3 weeks. So that's going to play a factor into it. Practicing, all the rest of it. He's got Michael Gallup back, so I agree with you. All right, Zeke, 15 fantasy points.
Yeah,
tricky.
Just because of the knee, not a knock on his form or his talent. It's the knee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go a slight oh boy. Slight oh boy on that one. Maybe 11 or 12.
There you go. Big Wheel is agreeing with us.
Yeah,
big shout out to Big Wheel.
They'll give more of the ball to Tony Pollard, and I think the passing game will be more effective on Sunday.
I think
a rest up game for him a bit.
Yeah, I could. It all depends how this knee responds this week. I'll say a push because if he is playing, I think the way Atlanta's defense has played against the run this year, I think the points are there for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
You could get 15 for Zeke. You could get a good 8, 9, 10 for Pollard as well. But it all depends how this knee focuses. So I'm just going to go a push on that one.
Okay. Yeah, because I think they are bad against the defense. They're also bad on offense in the running game. But yeah, it's a harsh one because you don't know how they're going to utilize Zeke. And I think it's going to be a heavy Pollard game to try and give him a bit of a break here. But that's obviously if they stay on script. If they stay on script, that is. Coop, 14 fantasy points.
See, there's 2 factors in this. The fact that the 2 catch last week and the return of Michael Gallup.
Michael Gallup being the issue.
So I would imagine the targets reduce. Again, there's only 1 ball to go around. I mean, this sounds like criticism. It's not.
No,
it's not. It's just it's
a good thing.
Exactly. It's fact. Yeah. It's fantasy perspective we're looking at, not in terms of brilliant receivers. I mean, you can only throw to one of them.
Here we are. We got an answer in from Big Wheel again.
I'm going to say boy oh boy because I think obviously he's got the drops out of the way. Obviously going into the Denver game last week, there was memes or there was stats going out. Obviously, 52 targets, 0 drops, and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was, and in the same way that when you're talking about, a winning streak, you're one game closer to losing. So I think every pass that comes your way is one pass closer to you dropping the ball. He's got that out of the way. The whole team played bad last week, so it wasn't just Coop, it wasn't just CD Lamb. I think they'll both be looking. Yeah, it was a bad day for everybody. I think they'll be looking to come back, and they'll be making the most out of it. So I'm going to go boy oh boy for Cooper.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna go oh boy, simply because he's still on the injury report. And Michael Gallup comes back.
All right,
but again, not a criticism, just an observation.
All right, CD Lamb, 15 fantasy points. And we're saying Michael Gallup comes back, and I think with Michael Gallup coming back, this helps Lamb because it puts him on a better on a better mismatch.
Yeah, I think Lamb draws single coverage. Boy oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go boy oh boy as well.
All righty. All right, Matty Ice, 18 fantasy points.
Oh boy, because I think there's an interception in there somewhere.
Yeah. Hopefully a couple of strip sacks as well. So
we'll throw a fumble in there as well. Why not?
Yes, stick one of them in for good measure. Hey, Dorrance Armstrong didn't have a bad game the last time he started out.
No, definitely not.
And Lloyd again coming in, Wheeler, big wheel, big love to big wheel. All right, Cordarrelle Patterson, 18 fantasy points. But bear in mind, he's also good in the kicking game, but he doesn't get awarded those points. It goes to DSTs.
See, I would say he's effective, but that's high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He is having a hell of a season.
He is, but he's not.
Do you know, in the running back rankings in fantasy, I think he's 6. Honestly.
Yeah.
Because he's classed as a running back on the system. But, it's that he plays that.
Yeah.
But that's a Derrick Henry number. You'd expect Derrick Henry to be shooting for those kind of numbers. I'm going to say, oh boy, I think it's high.
Alrighty. Oh
I'm hoping it's oh boy as well. So.
All right then. I'll go with you on that one. Russell Gage, 11 fantasy points. Bear in mind, no Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, that's low for their number one receiver.
Yeah.
Basically, he's the number one outside receiver.
Yeah.
The ball's got to go somewhere other than Kyle Pitts.
I mean, they're putting up 25 points on a regular occasion, so I'm going to say boy oh boy.
Yeah, boy oh boy as well.
Yeah, and we got Big Wheel joining in again, agreeing. All right, this is the tricky one. Kyle Pitts, 15 fantasy points. What do you do with that?
I just hope we keep keep them out of the red zone. So I think, it'll be oh boy on that one. Boy,
there. What are you doing, Gray?
I'd love to know what kind of game Kerse is going to have first. Because if Kerse has a good game, I'm going oh boy. Yeah, statement game. I'm going to go oh boy. I think we see a resurgent defense.
I like it. There we go then. And that's that neatly to bed. So then, yes, that is it from us. We will very quickly get some bills paid. Guys, just so you know, if you're going to go to a game this year, make sure you book it through Cowboys Experience. They have game day tickets, stadium tours, tailgate parties, and game packages for you. make sure as well, if you do book through them, let them know UK Cowboys sent you. Just simply say UK Cowboys, because what happens when you do that, guys?
You get free stuff.
And it's as simple as that. Just so you know as well, there is some big news coming out of Cowboys Experience. I can't say just yet, but it's coming.
And you also might see a drunken Scotsman in a kilt.
There is also that chance.
What more do you need?
Is he not actually working the game this weekend in terms of working?
I don't think it. No. Oh wait, he's going to the Kansas game. Yes, he might be actually.
And he can't get drunk because
is also the other part. Yeah. But also give some guys, some good friends of ours. Make sure you go and give them a follow, give them a nudge, let them know that we sent you. They're all good friends of ours. Some great content creators, as well as old Lloyd Wheeler, who does phone me up when he's had a few drinks at the game as well. Missing you over there, Lloydie. We will be there soon as well. But that is it for this week. We will see you over the weekend. We will be there, and all the rest of it. We'll slowly start reel out some more information about the UK Cowboys meet for the Super Bowl. But obviously, yes, that is it from us. So I am going to let Lord and Graham finish the show off, and we'll see you all over the weekend. How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, have a good week, everybody. And if you missed the show on Tuesday night, the Instagram feed for Paul is I am P Stew, and you'll be able to watch all of his shenanigans that he's getting up to. You probably won't hear half the stories that we've heard on within the group, but he certainly seems to be having a fantastic time. He was at NASA yesterday, so
I know for a fact my spies have checked, and he has not been in Dallas yet. Keep winding him up. He's like, just leave me have a holiday. I'm like, I'm not doing nothing.
Just a quick update. Confidence is above average.
I like it. But yes, if you with the group, we'll talk to you over the weekend. Stay safe, guys. Have a great weekend and enjoy the game.